Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm Rebecca Minkoff, founder of Rebecca Minkoff, co-founder of the Female Foundation and the 10th House. Welcome to our weekly or bi-weekly LinkedIn Lives. Today's guest is a friend and an incredible founder and entrepreneur, Chriselle Lim. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background if you're new to the 10th House and Female Founder Collective, just to tell you guys what it is, and then we will get into questions where you're going to learn all about Chriselle as a founder entrepreneur and the various entities she has built up. So just about 10th House, we launched Female Founder Collective about 3 years ago as a way to empower, educate, and support female founded companies. We then felt that we needed to go deeper by connecting women in similar sizes and stages, offering education to really bridge the gap between starting your business with a passion and then the, oh, you know what moment where you're like, I didn't know I needed to know that. So not only do we match founders with founders, but we have an incredible education platform, whether you need to know who your next agency is for digital marketing to how to fundraise, what to ask when you are writing a deck, and who you need to know to help really round out your business. So if you want any more information, head over to the Female Founder Collective and you can find out all about the 10th House platform. And for now, we're going to dive in. So just a little bit about Chriselle. She was one of the first digital influencers to enter the industry, paving the way for future content creators and entrepreneurs. Today, she has over 5 million followers across her various platforms and channels, inspiring women worldwide through her unique perspective on beauty, fashion, and lifestyle. If that wasn't enough, she wasn't quite busy enough. In 2020, she went and wanted to create a lightning rod in an industry that was underserved, and she co-founded Bümo, a platform bringing licensed educational childcare to the workplace. Bümo is a platform that is operational both online and in person. It's dedicated to reimagining what the future of family and work looks like by providing parents with creative solutions to thrive in their career while also supporting their children's development. Rapidly expanding, Bümo opened its first location at the Westfield Century City Shopping Center and has raised a $3.5 million seed round. So here we go. I would love to dive in. Everything that you have touched seemingly turns to magic. And you've followed a pretty non-traditional career path. So sometimes success is not linear. And I'm curious, what were some of the pivotal decision points that you had over the course of your career? And how did that shape your career?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I'm Chriselle Lim. I'm just thrilled to be here to share my story. It's what I love doing just because, as Rebecca said, I've had a very unique kind of career path, and it's something that I love to talk about. So, starting off as one of the first, I guess, fashion influencers, for me, it's always been about finding something, first of all, that I generally am interested in, and just becoming so obsessed with figuring out how to crack it and develop a business around it. And I just become so obsessed with it that I just can't sleep and think about it all day. And so that's actually how I got into fashion. And back then, as you know, Rebecca, there was no such word as influencers. It was just, I started off as a YouTuber, really, quite frankly. So I was creating YouTube videos and that more into Instagram. And then, I'm still a content creator. I love creating content. But I've been doing this for about 15 years. And when I first started, I was a college student, and my needs and my desires were a lot different back then. And then what happened was I became a mom. I became a mom about almost 7 years ago. And once I became a mom, I realized that there was such a gap in kind of the industry that I was, newly introduced to, which is parenting. And as a working mom, I felt like there was no options for women like me that wanted to continue to work and thrive in their career while still being a present and awesome parent. And so I researched and looked for places that I could actually be co-located with my child so I could continue to breastfeed, continue to do mommy and me classes while developing and still working full time. And there really wasn't anything. There were part-time things. There were like part-time childcare, not even part-time. It was unlicensed childcare. So that's no more than 3 hours. in a day that a parent can actually like drop off their kid. And for me, I needed more of a permanent solution. And that was when the obsession just started happening for me. And I was like, I can't find this, so I'm just going to start my own. And so it always starts off with a problem that I identify, and then from there, I try to look for a solution. And if the solution isn't there, I like to build the solutions.
So clearly, you had the problem, as so many moms have, and you said, okay, I'm starting this as a solution. Can you describe what it is that Bümo became, and then how potentially COVID accelerated the need for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Bümo started off as a simple concept, which was bringing fully licensed childcare to the workplace. So wherever working parents are at, whether that be corporate offices, law firms, shopping centers, airport, like anywhere that you could think of parents with kids, we would bring fully licensed childcare, which means that you could literally be there from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. all day, if you need a full day of work done. So that is how it started. And that was the idea that was initially developed. And then, of course, as we all know, 2020, the pandemic happened. And we had to quickly figure out what we were going to do. We just raised our seed round with incredible people. And because we were waiting on our physical space at Westfield Century City to open, we couldn't really we couldn't make any revenue the first year that we were in business. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? Are we just going to sit around and wait around until the pandemic is over? And so then that's how Bümo Brain was born, which is actually our virtual platform. And so because we were creating all this content and curriculum, because we are education based for our centers, we said, why don't we just launch this online and see if anyone needs it? If no one needs it, then at least Joan and I, my co-founder and I, could use it for our kids, right? And so we did it. And literally overnight, we had families in over, I believe it was like 30 countries that were signing up. There was an incredible wait list. And, that was the beginning days of the pandemic, because under kids that were at this early childhood age group, which is like 2 to 6 years old, there was really nothing for them.
Yeah.
And so that's how Boomo Brain was born. And it was not part of the plan that we were going to launch a digital service. But that really helped us accelerate our original model, because now we had kind of the reputation that we are a legitimized education company, a trusted education company. And again, that was not part of the plan, but it all kind of worked out. And now that we have opened up our first location, another thing that the pandemic did for us, which we could not have planned at all, was that companies, corporate businesses, corporate companies we're like, we cannot get our employees back to the office, and we need them back in the office at least in the coming year.
Yeah.
How do we support our working parents? Because that was a conversation that we were all having, is like, these working parents are literally dying at home. They could barely like have any room for themselves because they were full-time parenting. Yes, I know you were one of them, Rebecca. Um, and we still had to get all of our work done. Childcare was very limited because a lot of people were not bringing outside help in, and limited resources. And so I think parents really took a hard hit in the past 2 years, and employers are now recognizing the importance of supporting working parents. So the beauty of all of this was now big corporate companies and also mid-sized companies are like, okay, Bumo, we see that you are supporting working parents. We need your services as a company benefit. And so some companies, I cannot reveal the names quite yet, but we are building up Bumos within the corporate buildings, or they're also subsidizing childcare. I mean, who would want to leave a company if you're going to subsidize childcare, right? And that's incredible. And I think that people are now seeing that it's not only just a recruiting tool, but it's also a tool that will just make talent really, really happy, and loyalty, really. And that is so, so important. And so that's something that we've been working on and developing with a lot of businesses. And again, something that we couldn't have planned, but the pandemic has really opened up our eyes of the needs of these parents.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you read about the sheer amount of women who've left the workforce due to a large nature of everything that you're serving to them, or able to serve to women, and the great, what is it, the great resignation. I
Yeah.
think any corporate company would be brilliant to have Bümo be installed at their company headquarters. As a mom, with dropping my 3-year-old off every day, if I knew he was next door and I could go have lunch with him or play with him, I mean, I would do it in a second. So I think
Yeah.
for those tuning in, it's a brilliant idea to have Bümo participate in your corporate structure, because the retaining ability to retain more women and know that their kids are going to be taken care of is incredible. Um, what I would love to transition to is, I talk to a lot of founders about forecasting and managing their own expectations. I think we are in a society of, I want it now, now, now.
Mhm.
But I think accuracy in forecasting is important. What is your process for this? And also, sort of, how do you've had to pivot a lot from one standalone location to online to now going into corporations. So how do you plan for that, or do you not?
Yeah, I mean, given that we didn't really have time to plan due to COVID, we were definitely planning as things were unfolding. And although that is not ideal, we were able to really like practice quickly thinking of the demands of what people actually needed now. But now that this is kind of our new normal, we are now able to take a step back and be like, okay, what is working and what isn't working? And let's face it, when it comes to especially new businesses, there are going to be a lot of learnings. Like what you thought was going to work might not be your core business model, and vice versa, right? And so we have had at least 2.5 years of that. And so what has been really interesting for us is that because Bümo work, our physical location, it's if any of you guys are in LA, you have to visit. It's at Westfield Century City. It's on the second floor, right next to Bloomingdale's. It's a beautiful location. It's just like the modern day parent, when they look at it, it's their dream. But the fact of the matter is that we realized to build a bunch of those take quite some time, right? And there's a lot of lead time, there's a lot of negotiation that has happened in between, and also scaling, right? Our whole mission, my whole mission is making it accessible for people everywhere at any time. And same thing with my co-founder. So we really had to have kind of like a come to Jesus moment of like, okay, what is it? How are we going to be able to make this scale faster, right? And so that is when we decided to start Bümo Care, which is, I kind of call this our Uber X model. We started off with the black car model, which is the Bümo work. It's sexy, it's big, it's everything that the parents could dream of. But reality is that, we could only open up so many of those at a given time. And so the Bümo Care model has been really exciting for us because it's very agile. We're pretty much going into existing centers that already have, their license, whether it be a school or a play center, and we're kind of taking over their location when they're not in operation, and we're able to pretty much give everyone the Bumo experience. And it's on-demand childcare. So let's say that your nanny calls in sick tomorrow, you could just hop on in and spend the day there, drop off your kids so you could go to work. And so again, it's all about agility for us at this point, and being able to have it accessible, especially also with the price points, for women and parents really everywhere. So that was our biggest learning, because in my head I was like, we're going to open up 100 Bumo Works worldwide and it's going to be amazing. That was what I envisioned. But after doing this for a few years now, we're like, okay, it does take a lot of time and a lot of resources and a lot of money. And so we really had to figure out what that kind of in between was, and that's how we launched Bümo Care.
So smart. I think it's so critical that businesses pivot. And it's like you said, you don't always start out. I started out as a apparel designer. Now I'm most known for my handbag. So I think that the ability to pivot can be life or death for a founder in a
And
company.
Female Founder Club and 10th
Well,
House.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Totally. Um, So, in your opinion, what are the keys to building a winning business and what are the keys to building a winning organizational culture? Because some people, most have winning businesses and then the culture is a mess or vice versa. How do
Yeah.
you feel like you look at building both to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, I could speak on that as a startup. Obviously, things change a lot as your company grows into a much bigger corporation, but our team is about, I think, about 20 plus full-time people now. And so we're still pretty much in startup phase, but the hours and the workload and the pace is a lot different when you are in that kind of building phase and that growth phase. And so when it comes to culture, we're much better about it now, like almost 2.5, 3 years into it. But we really want to, like my co-founder Joan. Actually, let me backtrack. The my one key thing in building a successful business, at least for me personally, because I am a creative at heart, is finding a co-founder or a partner or someone at an executive level that could run with you, if not faster than you. And that has been kind of the common thread for me with all of the businesses that I have, is that I have a very, very strong partner, which allows me to really just kind of not take a seat back, but allow me to focus on what I'm really, really great at, which is being creative and content. And so that's what I do, like the common thread in all of my businesses. Now, kind of going back to the organization part, um, company culture, especially at I guess startup level, is very, very important. We obviously work incredibly hard, long, late hours, to get things up and running. But then my co-founder Joan will be like, "Hey, like this like this week, like I don't want anyone to be checking their emails, like you guys get a week off." Like she's very good about trying to figure out that balance, because one week will go so hard and we're very aware that people can burn out, right? We're all human. Even my co-founder and I, we burn out as well. So there are days and months that are very, very heavy, but then we also try to make up for that on the other side. And then also just having fun. We have something called like an all hands meeting, which is like a company meeting once a month. And in the last one, my co-founder Joan was telling everyone, like, yes, we work hard, but if you're not having fun while doing this, you're probably in the wrong place. So let's make sure that we have fun. And then, so if you're looking at our Slack channel, we have like a fun channel, and they're just like going off on like all the fun things that we could do together as a team. So we really nurture that. Like we really nurture the community, and we make it feel like a family. So we're kind of all in it together.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I've learned that we didn't always do well, and I don't know if you shared this, but you're probably ahead of it now, is sometimes you can get so focused on everything that's stressful that you don't celebrate the wins. And if you don't celebrate those wins, then it just seems like drudgery all the time and only the bad stuff happening. And so at least for our team, we're really trying to be like, that was awesome. Take a minute, take the day, enjoy the success of whatever we just did and move on. And I think for a culture that's really important, especially at the beginning when it seems like you're trying to just keep the screws on the wheels on the bus.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we lose sight of that often because we have like this one goal, whether it's a certain number or like getting a company to, I don't know, like sell or IPO. Like we have that one goal, right? And everything seems so laser focused to that one goal that you forget these little wins and
Yeah,
all the moments that make the journey actually super exciting and worthy. And so we do take the time and slow down to be able to celebrate those. I think that's really important.
totally. So you mentioned Joan, your co-founder. So for the women and men tuning in, what goes into finding a partner? I know you mentioned you want them to run faster than you. What are you looking for when you're searching for a partner? And not everyone needs a partner. So what about this unique situation made you say, okay, I need someone?
Yeah, I mean, like hands down to people that don't need partners. Like I truly just can't relate to you. But it is really, really, truly a gift. So I bow down to you guys. For me personally, when I look for a partner, I am so in tune with what I am great at. And I think that's the first step is just being able to be so real with yourself of what you are good at and what you really, really suck at. And I know exactly what I really, really suck at. And I think once you just accept that, you
Yeah.
know what kind of founder or what kind of partner or what kind of executive level you need to find of these people, because you're just spinning your wheels if you're trying to do things that you're not really great at, where it, for me, it could take 100 times longer to do one task because I'm not an operational person. My co-founder, she could operate the entire company with her eyes closed. Like, it's so easy for her. So just being really smart about time and where you're going to invest your time and where you don't want to invest your time, and finding the partner that can do the other job really, really well and efficiently. And so that's how I look at it. So even though my companies and my businesses are all a little different in different industries, when it comes to my partners, they're all great operators. They're very, very savvy with numbers. They are builders, and they are incredibly great with team building,
Yeah.
um, which are all the things that I'm very horrible at. And I don't know if that answers your question, but
No,
that is how I actually look for my partner. So I think it's different for everyone, really, depending on what they're good at.
yeah, but I want to underline what you said. Know what you're terrible at. I very quickly identified in the early years everything. I was like, you know what? For me to learn this is going to take way too long, and I'm frankly not the best use of my time. So can I hire for that? And I think sometimes people are afraid to admit their weaknesses, or if they show that they're weak in an area, they won't be taken seriously. But I tell people all the time, know what you're the worst at, and hire to solve.
I think it's the biggest strength, being able to know what your weaknesses are
Yeah,
and being able to own it. But also, again, going back to solutions, like having a solution for that, right? So this is what I not good at, but the solution is I have this person or I have X, Y, and Z that it can do it very, very well. And I think that's a plus for any company.
totally. So I would love to know, speaking of challenges, what has been the most challenging thing for you? You're your own boss, you're leading a team, even if you have, lots of co-founders in all the categories. What's
Yeah,
the hardest part?
I think the hardest part is, and I think this has a little bit more to do with, like, internally as a woman, like, not feeling guilty, because I think guilt is something that naturally just follows us everywhere we go, whether it being a mom and not being a good enough mom, or, whatever it is. And I think it's the guilt that I cannot be 100% at every single thing, because I do have multiple businesses. But whenever I am talking to my co-founders at these businesses, um, and seeing them kind of run, I'm just like, okay, I don't have to feel guilty. Like, even if I was in there, they are doing it so much better than I am. And so I think that has been the hardest part, is just like letting go and just really focusing on um and making it effective, what these hours are that I'm putting into each business, and also really focusing on building that proper team around it, so I could walk away, because I'm kind of a control freak, and I'm just like, I want to be in it with you guys all the time, but it's not realistic. And so I think for me, it's more emotional. It's like kind of taking a step away from it and being like,
Yeah,
okay, my team has got this. They are way better than I am, way more capable than I am, and just allowing them to do their thing.
yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
feel like the day when I stopped micromanaging, I was like, it's really hard for me to not do that, but I have to let the babies fly, and maybe we wouldn't come to the same decision or end up at the same path. But the only way to be in so many categories and to do so much is part putting your trust in your team, frankly.
Yeah, and then also another, on more on the business side, less the emotional side, it's really just pivoting in I during COVID, right? And figuring out what was working and what wasn't working. And we're still, kind of at that phase, but definitely have figured out what it is that people need. But I think when we were in it, we're like, oh gosh, like, another pivot. Is this necessary right now? But it is all necessary, right? For us to
Yeah.
figure it out. And if you don't pivot and if you're not going to take those risks, and some of them work and some of them don't, but that's all part of the learning. And I think that was really frustrating at the time because you're just like, I want to know what that one thing is that I need to focus on. But you kind of have to go through all these heaps and hurdles to figure out what that thing is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have Bümo Brain, Bümo Care, Bümo the physical location. You just raised a $3.5 million round. Where do you see the future of Bümo going?
Well, the future of Bumo is the future of family. And so we really believe that we are changing the narrative of what a modern day family looks like and how work will be integrating childcare and vice versa, and how families will be supported in the next few years through Bumo. And so, for us at the moment, currently, we are really focused on developing and just getting as many Boomo cares out to as many cities. We have Pasadena opening up. We have 2 locations in Orange County. We're trying to open up as many as we can. Also, LA, different parts of LA, and so that is our main focus right now, and also serving these corporate companies, B2Bs, and really figuring out what it is that they need and how we could serve them so they could also have happy employees, and get their employees back to the workplace and be excited to be working there again because their kids are next to them. They feel supported as people, and so that's our main focus is Bumo Care and getting into serving these corporate companies.
I love it. I think it's amazing, and I hope the corporations tuning in rapidly adopt Bümo to their roster. I
Thank
know this
you.
wasn't in the questions, but I'd like to know, what is something that you wish you would have known as a founder that might help a new founder who's a little bit shocked, like, I know I wanted to do this, but oh man, I didn't know it was going to be this hard.
Yeah, I call it the messy middle. You get your idea going. It's the most exciting thing. You're funded. You have all the support. You're on your way, and then it's like climbing a mountain. You get to the midpoint, and you're like, oh, this is a lot harder than I thought. I'm so exhausted. Oh, I don't know if I can make it. And that's completely normal. I want to normalize that. I think
Yeah,
every founder has gone through that. But I always tell people that as long as you know it's part of the process, it's okay to take a moment and chill for a little bit. If you need a breather, if you need a rest to like catch your breath, do that, but do not go back down. Like there's no point in going back down. Like you got to keep going up, right?
yeah.
And so just knowing that is part of the process and normalizing just the messiness and the chaos of building a new business. It's not easy. And you learn as you go. And for us because we're when it comes to finances, we want to be so efficient with every single dollar as a startup. But there are times when you're going to be like, I spent how much money on this and it didn't even work. Like, what? That's part of the process as well. You learn as you go and you figure out what works and what doesn't. Um, but just don't give up. And
Yeah.
have as long as you have the passion and you have a purpose, then you got to keep going.
I can't stress what you said enough about normalizing it. I think everyone sees the glossy magazines and she raised this and she's on a private jet and she's, having the perfect life, and then they're like, "Wait, I didn't know it was going to get messy." And
Yeah.
I think it gets messy every day, even for big companies. It's messy for us, and we've been around for 20 years. So I think
Yeah.
it's just part of it. And so I love that you said that because it is so true. And you have to love the mess as much as you love the good times to keep going.
And then also things like this with like community, right? And that's why I love the Female Founder Collective and like 10th House is that just having these chats with other founders at all levels, it just makes you feel so seen and normal.
Yes.
Because when you're doing it on your own, and I have to say, I'm naturally more. I can't say I'm an introvert because I obviously with what I do, I'm not allowed to be an introvert, but I do love doing things on my own. I love being alone, but this whole startup world has taught me that I can't be alone. Like, I have to talk, and I have to talk to other founders, as uncomfortable that is, because that only supports you emotionally. It also helps you network. It also helps you with, just like your next big idea. And it's just incredible what you've been able to build with Female Founders Club and or collective. And yeah, I just want to applaud you for that as well, because it's so needed, especially for founders, new founders too.
Totally. I think, people say it's lonely at the top, but if you're a founder, it's just lonely no matter where you are. So
Maybe at all levels, it's lonely.
it is lonely. So where can people find out more about Bümo, join Bümo Care, get and support everything Bümo?
Yes. So if you want to learn more about Bümo, you can go to boomowork.com, or you can follow us on Instagram. Check us out at Bümo Parent. That just kind of like all of the brands in one handle, which is Bümo Parent. And then if you want to chat with me, I'm at Chriselle Lim.
Awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for being here, Chriselle. You've made a huge difference in the trajectory of not only my company, but the Female Founder Collective as well. And if you enjoyed this topic and this LinkedIn Live, be sure to check us out at the Female Founder Collective and join the 10th house. You're going to get way more opportunity to even interact with founders like Chriselle at an intimate level when you join us. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And Chriselle, thank you for being here and for everything you do.
Thank you so much. I had an amazing time. Bye, everyone.